you to this point in your vocational journey? What is your calling? Now, I was really hoping for a scholarship, and I was applying in late March, several weeks after the scholarship application deadline. So this essay was high stakes, and I worked really hard on it, and I came up with this fun little story to frame it, and I read it to Robin, a really good friend of mine, and he said, "Stop trying to be cute." So I worked more on it, and I read it to him again, and he said, "It's still pretty cute. Do you want your ministry to be cute?" I certainly don't want my ministry to be cute. I want my ministry to be deep and vulnerable and meaningful. So I worked on it more, and then more, and I worked on it until I felt like I had taken my heart out on the chest and embossed it onto the paper. And then I read it to him again, and he said, "All right then." And then I read it to my mother, and she cried, and she said, "Yes, this is to you, my daughter. This is you." So here's part of what I wrote. On the night Trump got elected, I called my mother in Germany, sobbing. I half expected her to tell me to come back to Germany, the country where I was born and raised. Instead, she urged me, "Rise, fight, and resist. Uphold the family legacy." My family has a long history of political activism and working towards justice. My great-grandfather and his brother were both persecuted for fighting in the resistance against Hitler. My great-aunt was hiding Jews and helped them leave the country during the Holocaust. My parents were active in the student revolution in the 60s, and they took me to my first peace march when I was 5 years old, just as I took my then 6-year-old daughter to DC in January of 2016. Social justice work has been a constant throughout my life, yet it was only in recent years that I realized that differently from the rest of my family, my calling to the fight for justice is deeply spiritual in nature. I want to dedicate my life to bringing about justice, though I myself might never see it realized. It is in this very consciousness that I'm working for a change in the world that seems so far removed from the realities of the current situation, and that will most likely not brought about within my short lifetime, that has turned working towards justice into a work of faith. I know from personal experience how spiritual guidance and exploration can help one navigate dark times, and how a deeper understanding of oneself and both the world and what lies beyond can provide a much needed sense of calm and contentment. Moreover, it is this sense of inner calm that can propel each of us towards greatness and towards becoming a person who values justice and community over personal gain or material comfort. There is nothing more raw and tender than an aching soul, be it that of an individual or the soul of humanity at large. If I can be even just a small part in the ongoing healing process, my life will be well spent. I did get that scholarship. But more importantly, I stand by what I said in that essay. To me, justice work is faith work. My love for the world, my despair for its pain, and me wanting to make it better, wanting to build a different kind of community, one that is built on and fueled by love and that leads towards justice. That is what pulls me towards ministry, but more so to faith, spirituality, and church. It's what pulls me to Unitarian Universalism. And church, us, is what sustains me when I get tired or when my hope falters. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room for whom that is true. When we think of why humans developed religions, making sense of the world often comes to mind. Life, death, creation. Answering questions such as, where do we come from? Where does everything come from? Where will we go? But I think an equally important but less discussed question is justice, both in its pragmatic and its spiritual sense. Pragmatically, religions were used to formulate laws. Think of the Ten Commandments. However, regardless of how hard we as humans try, laws and justice systems are always flawed. The justice we have created often falls short of being truly just or fair, and we can see this as a sad truth, not just throughout history, but even today. Almost any time we turn on the news, we're confronted in a painful way with how little laws sometimes have to do with justice. Hence, many religions over the centuries have also stressed some concept of divine justice, of a spiritual reward system that will eventually make up for all the shortcomings of our flawed and human justice system. Yet we as Unitarian Universalists have a more peculiar calling to justice. Regardless of what we as individuals might believe, as a faith community, we do not share a creed that can promise us divine justice, some perfect, godly justice that will be given to us after Judgment Day. Instead, we are called to do justice, to create justice ourselves in our own imperfect human ways. So of course, we give it our best, the very best we as humans have to offer. We give it love. If the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, we are not just bending it, we are building it with our love, piece by imperfect and imperfectly lovable little piece. There's this graphic of the 7 principles that really speaks to me, and I know you can't read it very well, but I'll explain it. It has the first principle and the 7 principles which are like the inherent worth of dignity of every person and the interconnected of all beings as pillars, right? Those 2 pillars. These are our main affirmations about life, what we know to be true about the world, that every person has inherent worth and dignity, and that we are all part of the interconnected web of all beings. And then the other 5 principles that kind of make the arch on top, they give us guidance about how we want to be together, about the community we want to create with each other. And that community starts and ends with justice. Justice is the word that is mentioned twice in the 2nd principle and the 6th principle. So right at the beginning of the arch and right at the end of the arch. We do not just answer the call of love. We also answer the call of justice. So how are love and justice related? According to the Reverend Dr. Cornel West, one of the greatest living philosophers of our time, justice is what love looks like in public. And I love this quote. I really, really love it. And yet, seeing justice as an expression of love can be a little bit abstract when we imagine it in practice, right? What does that look like? It's so much easier to focus on the smaller, more private situations in which love often shows up as kindness. Oh, no. When we meet as individuals and we really see each other and we see each other's inherent worth and dignity, just like you just saw each other earlier during our meditation. When we hold a door for someone, extend a hand or give a flower. The smiles we offer each other as old friends or as strangers passing each other in the street. A shared laugh or a word of comfort. Also, a word of truth when it is needed, but uttered gently so that it can be received gently. From what I have seen of this congregation, all of you so far are truly, truly kind people. During coffee hour or meetings or the service auction or all the other little things I've attended so far, I've seen you interact with each other lovingly and gently. I've seen you embrace each other as members of this community. I've seen you take care of each other when one of you is hurting. And I felt your kindness when you welcomed me here so warmly. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only intern who was serenaded by their congregation for their first time leading worship. So that's something. I feel so grateful and blessed to be an intern here and to have you as my basis and my starting point on this journey towards ministry, because you are kind and loving people. You really are, and I see you. To me, kindness is first principle love, because it grows out of our truly seeing each other's inherent worth and dignity. But it's, as much as we would like to extend that kindness to every person in the world, kindness requires some degree of knowing to each other. It requires at least the most basic level of contact, passing each other in the street, or I don't know, maybe commenting on a Facebook post, but like there has to be something for us to show kindness, right? Justice, however, let's get back to justice. Justice is seventh principle love. Justice is what love looks like in public. Thank you. We strive to create just societies, a just world, because we are interconnected and because our concept of neighbor, the neighbor we love, is broad enough to encompass all of humanity. We are called to build a just world even for the billions of people we will never meet, with whom we'll never share a smile or a walk in the rain or rose. Our seventh principle love still allows us to share a dream, a vision of justice for the world, and even to hold the tension when that dream looks different for different people. Yet making that dream a reality and creating justice in the world is a daunting task. What can a single one of us do when we are confronted with so much injustice? What power do I have? I have the power to connect with you, and you, and you. I have the power to find a community, to build a community, or to transform a community. Because together we have the power to make a change. As the choir sang earlier, we have the power to make them hear us. Look, for example, at this amazing candidate forum members of this church organized for this coming Wednesday. They came together with a group, they came together as a group, as a community, with the Long Beach Church. They invited other churches in the area to get involved, and together they did this amazing, hard thing. An amazing and hard thing that might cause structural change and that might bring about a more just community right here in Orange County. We can come together and we can make them hear us. And there are so many other people at this church who do amazing work with other groups. Just this week there was an email sent out that focused on some members, and I'm sure there are more. And those members, they still come here on Sundays to be sustained and fed and held, because that too is what community can do for us. It can give us the strength and the energy to keep us going in our struggle for justice. But maybe on some days, even that might not do. As I mentioned earlier, part of why justice work requires faith, at least for me, is that because more often than not, I feel like I'm tirelessly working on something that I might never see realized. And on some days, it's hard to keep up that faith. On some days, it seems like there's nothing that I or that we can do. But we can always be kind. We can always be kind to every person we see, be they friends or strangers. Even if it's just by giving them a smile that makes them know that we see them, that we see their inherent worth and dignity. Because someone amongst the people we encounter every day is bound to need that affirmation. And maybe our smile is just the thing that they need to keep them going in their struggle for justice. We as humans do not need a divine power to create heaven or hell for each other right here, right now. I want to work towards creating heaven amongst humankind, not hell. And I believe that community building and the human connections we forged between each other, be it to celebrate a joy, help each other through pain, or just be with each other and be kind to each other. Walk through rain, dream a dream, or share a rose. That is the basis of the community. So here I am, called to ministry and all yours for the next 2 years. Hoping to connect with you and be part of you connecting with each other. Here I am, ready and eager to learn from you and with you, to share dreams of justice and visions of love with you, to build our community, to be kind, and to always, always, always see you. May it be so.